So, hello and welcome to our second interview of Emil Wade Shelburne, and we are moving to radionics on agriculture. Hello and welcome back. Emil, how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. So let's just dive in. And my first question today is, how can radionics be effectively applied in agriculture? And what specific benefits have you observed in crop yield, quality, pest control, and other things?
So there's two ways for radionics to be approached with agriculture. One is to get a soil sample and to see what's affecting the soil itself. So you can measure for what's vital in the soil compared to what's lacking. And with those readings, you can apply different homeopathic remedies or any type of initiative to make the soil vibrant again for what your need is. Or you can use it simply just to see what should we plant here. So when you see certain elements that are higher and beneficial to a certain root crop or fruit trees or anything like that, you can make a judgment on what you're going to plant in that season off of the soil health.
Mm-hmm. So you're advising homeopathy for plants or for soil?
Well, Rudolf Steiner introduced it for plants, but through the homeopathic, so that'll be specific homeopathic remedies can be used for plants, for plant health. And then for soil, you can apply those same principles as with like Schuler cell salts.
Mm-hmm.
So the mineral salts that you need for possibly need for that specific patch of land, you can incorporate those to the soil itself. Yeah, both ways. Because with the second way that you can use the radionics is with plant health itself and go from there.
Could it help in cutting the cost and reducing pollution, contamination of soil, water, air that can be through radionics and homeopathy both?
Yes, that's a big advantage is you're saving costs and you're not damaging the environment with different poisons.
Right. So you can really cut down the need for pesticides, herbicides, and other dangerous chemicals out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So and can you also do radionics and manure?
Yeah, with manure fertilizer, you can add those. You can judge what exact fertilizers you need for the soil through doing different rate tests. So you go through like in agriculture, there's I don't know, thousands of rates. So from the fungus, the bacterias,
Yeah.
and you can judge what is specific for the soil that year
Oh.
because it's always changing. There's a rhythm in the nature. So that's why you need to do different reagents or rates fairly like every season or every few seasons, because it's not that the reagent is getting weaker or the frequencies that are being sent, it's the needs have changed.
Especially with the environmental changes,
Mm-hmm.
the chemtrails and all of that. Does that?
Anything that's in the environment will affect it.
Okay. So can you share any case studies or examples where radionics has demonstrated success in addressing agricultural challenges such as soil fertility, plant diseases?
Well, going back to the first question,
Yeah.
so the second part with approaching plants.
Yeah.
So basically, as with humans, you can reintroduce the plant's immune system.
Oh, wow.
So part of the problem with agriculture and why pesticides and herbicides are introduced, there's certain elements in the environment that come alive whether it's worms or different
Please.
insects,
Yeah.
or even birds.
Oh, yeah.
That's it's an unhealthy energy in that area. And the plant is becoming reduced vitality, so the fungicide will be able to, the fungus infection will take over and kill the plant.
Like the parasites.
The
Yeah, they
parasites.
pick up the nutritions. Yeah.
So that you can readjust. You can help the plant's immune system to come back.
Okay, and the plant itself can fight the parasite.
Mhm.
It's so interesting. Wow.
Now, as far as a case study goes, in Canada in the 70s, he was the Minister for Indian Affairs, brought to his attention radionics treatment in New Brunswick on pine worms. And the results were so good, he brought it forward to the Canadian government. Of course, in the government, there's people with different interests, like petroleum and big agriculture. So they put a stop to further funding that this man was looking at. But that one was specific for lowering the vitality of that parasite.
Which one was that? Can you take his name again?
For who?
The man you were talking about, is that Dr. Andrew?
Um,
The president of the Planetary Association for Green. Yeah.
yeah.
All
So
right.
he was the Indian Affairs Minister. And after he was done with that, he brought that to the attention of the public. That specific case study.
So Andrew had all the visual data and he had everything to support him, and still the government didn't support him. He had everything.
Well, that infestation was a big problem in the 70s in New Brunswick. It was damaging the trees. And this was one remedy that was brought forward, very cost effective. And all he wanted to do was continue the studies. So the treatment worked, and he wanted to continue it.
Yeah. So
And the
why
government said no.
couldn't he? Why couldn't he continue?
Big corporate interests said no.
And it never happened then.
Yeah.
Who?
The New Brunswick experiment is fairly easy to find online. It's not a hidden item. You can even
I'll
look
put
at
a link below in the description box for anybody who wants to see at the Brunswick experiment. That would be great. Can we move on to the next question? Now, what specific radionic instruments or techniques do you find most useful in the context of agriculture?
So the instrument I use is called the EQ1111. And that was built by an inventor in British Columbia. It's under the company name Technologies of Peace. There's numerous technologies dealing with sacred geometry, sound, color, this radionics device.
Wow. So I really want to jump in a radionic device and just see how it looks like, even though I won't understand the scientific background. But how do these devices differ from each other?
From Technologies of Peace?
Yeah. Or from anywhere. Like why did you go to Technologies of Peace and they have different devices or
The area I was living in.
different applications?
Yeah, it was simply I was introduced because I was living in that area.
Okay.
And I was interested in different technologies for free energy or Tesla energies, and then more natural health items. And I just got to know some people in that area, and that's how I got to know this company. So his actually started with a light and color pad, where Mike was an extreme runner, and he did the barefoot running, and happened to do it in cold. It was a either high mountains or just a cold time of year. Can't
Mhm.
remember exactly where, but his feet froze so badly he needed amputation.
Oh, frostbite then, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a genius, and he had 2 months before the operation, or 6 weeks or what have you, and he built his first light and sound therapy pad himself, applied it, and needless to say, he still has his feet.
So how many years is that? Um,
Decades ago.
oh,
He's an elderly fellow now.
is he still alive?
Yeah.
Wow.
Another fellow that I work more with, he had a similar problem. That's
Mm-hmm.
how he got into the technology, except he burnt his feet in a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Repaired it that way. And then later on in life, when he was living in the Caribbean, he had an infection from some type of seaweed,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a nervous system problem, and he helped that using the light and color therapy pad.
Okay, so
He
some
got into
nerve damaging toxins would be released from the seaweed. Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. Amazing work. Yeah.
There's another technology. It's built in a dodecahedron uh,
Mm-hmm.
shell, and it uses light and sound therapy also. And you can take a radiation counter and see the radiation in your home, and then put it in this um, sound chamber, it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Stops. So they're built to have either a chair or a bed in there, and it gives you like a high rate of relaxation. So your immune system, your nervous system can regenerate the body. B, it stops these frequencies from coming in that area, so you can get relief.
I don't know if you're aware of some people, they use tongues to generate vibrations.
Tuning forks?
Yeah, tuning forks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it somewhat similar to what these guys are using, or?
They don't use tuning forks. Like
They-
there's a sound program that comes with it.
Oh, okay.
So you can listen to this music while you're relaxing.
Okay. So this is really different from vibrational energy, the
Well, it's
tuning.
not just vibration.
Mm,
So it's a different way of applying vibrational healing to your body.
right. How do you approach customizing radionic treatments for different crops or specific agricultural conditions, and what factors do you consider in this process?
So first, generally, you try to get a sample of the soil, not the plants. You check the rates to see the health and vitality of the beneficial minerals in the soil, and you can see the levels of the toxins. So whether it's diesel or glyphosate or 2,4-D, whatever it is, fungus. And then from there, first, what I would do is add the vitality minerals to the soil, make the soil more vibrant,
Mhm,
create a better immune system of the soil,
mhm,
and then to lessen the stressors. So there can be a transmutation process to get rid of the glyphosate,
mhm,
the um, the negative rates of that particular toxin.
mhm.
So you're not physically removing it, but you're making the rate or frequency more beneficial to the soil. Then you can check if there's plants growing there, check the vitality of the plants and change the immune system, so to speak, of that plant, so that it's not overburdened by the pests or fungus that are trying to eat it,
Mm,
who are recognizing an energy imprint that it is sick and needs to be cleaned up, actually. So
mhm.
that's
Right.
why glyphosate doesn't necessarily kill the plant,
Yeah.
lowers the immune system, creates an energetic that a fungus will come and do its job by eating it up.
Right. Yeah. As the cleaners.
Yeah.
What if a certain field or the soil was sprayed decades ago with DDT and glyphosate and other chemicals? would it come up in radionics if they have already expired, these chemicals, or do these chemicals really expire over the period of time, or they just still have imprints on soil and the plants growing around it or in it?
The life cycle of these different chemicals, I don't know about. So
For DTT, it's still that there be some traces on the vegetables, or there would be some traces in the generations being affected with DDT, like polio patients and stuff. But if we tested on um, the radionic rates or whatever you call that, would it still come up as this soil has these chemicals and they are this many years old, or they would just come up if they were a month old?
no, it would come up irregardless of the age.
Okay.
So if the life cycle of that poison frequency is 20, 30 years, it'll still be there. It'll measure anything that's there, good or bad. Any rate that you have, you can measure for. As long as you know, if you know the rate and you want to know if
I'm
you're,
spellbound now,
yeah.
actually. Okay,
Well,
wow.
I don't really, yeah, I would say glyphosate or DDT.
Yeah,
Different chemicals are being put on us all the time.
lithium and
So we just check and switch it off.
lithium, lead, other industrial chemicals, everything.
Yeah, different oils and gases that are used for the vehicles we use.
Yeah, yeah. So for the
Acid
environment,
rain used to be high
carbon
on people's
dioxide.
consciousness, and test for acid rain still, and all sorts of pollutants.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, can we move on to the next question then? In your opinion, how does radionics complement or potentially replace conventional agricultural practices?
So the complement is money saving. So you can be more efficient in the plants the crops that you plant.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what the soil will produce good plants with, you can plant those seeds.
Yeah.
So by the mineral content in the soil and the humic value, what all these different rates, you can look and see what will grow there well. So you save money there.
Mm-hmm.
You add in the different rates that are beneficial to that plant, so they'll grow faster, needing less herbicides or pesticides, less water, higher bricks content, etc. So you get a better crop yield, healthier plants.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, you're saving the environment from the amounts of dangerous toxins that are used in agriculture, industrial agriculture.
Yeah.
So those are
Biodiversity, I think. Yeah. And so how do you apply traditional biodynamics with along with radionics? Do you, if you can touch base a little bit there?
one biodynamic concept was the homeopathic addition, or the cell salt, mineral salt addition. And that's one way to go about it. And what Rudolf Steiner found was counterintuitive to how most people think. If the soil needs a certain mineral, to put it in low dosage into the soil,
Mm-hmm.
the lower dilution rate or a higher dilution rate will produce more effect on that soil and the plants. So it's a homeopathic mindset for soil, and
What do
that's
you mean by higher dilutionary? What that really means for
so
a
the
non-professional person? How would you explain that?
homeopathics is not well received by some people
Yeah.
because it is diluted by so many times that there isn't a single molecule of the original
Yeah.
molecule.
Yeah.
And that came from the idea that like heals like.
Right. Yeah.
So if you had an issue, you introduce a, highly diluted, not even one molecule left there, and it will cure you at a very quick rate. So radionics uses a lot of homeopathic rates. If you use a homeopathic and radionics, that's the best. A physical radionic solution.
And you would advise the same to organic growers.
Yes.
And how is biodynamic? Is there a difference between biodynamic farming and organic farming? Or there?
Yeah, biodynamics introduces all different life forms into a property or area that you're farming.
So it would say it's good for us to have good bugs because they eat away the bad ones.
Yes, and you incorporate animals generally as one way to incorporate fertilizer naturally. So in biodynamic farming, you'll have a whole array of different plants, flowers, numerous animals involved in that ecosystem, and it nourishes the whole environment. There's nothing there fighting with each other. It's all working
And you
together.
don't separate out the plants from the animals, and you don't. What else could be different?
Oh, well, the environment needs all these different life forms to be vibrant. Whereas organic farming could be just same thing, monocrop, using non-chemicals, whatever the organic company says is organic certification board says is good to use, you just use it.
I think they, if I'm not wrong, they use copper sprays or some other kind of organic natural sprays.
There's a lot of controversy in the organic food.
Okay.
It's not necessarily always good for the environment.
Because you do get seedless organic grapes, which doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
And
So,
the other thing with biodynamic farming is it incorporates not just soil health, but the atmosphere health.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So he found that the element of silica is good for the digestion or metabolism system of the air and atmosphere.
Yeah.
Lime is for the soil.
Right. So is that diatomaceous earth with silica?
Silica is an element found, it's quartz, organic quartz, and it's actually a very good electrolyte, and for the body as a cell salt, that's for bone health and stability.
Yeah.
So you kind of see in the modern day world, a lot of people don't really have a backbone. They're scared to talk or show themselves for many different reasons, and that's a silica deficiency in the body.
Okay, so it affects on the psychotropic level as well.
It's a very important aspect for bone health.
I was taking diatomaceous earth for my bone health, and I got rid of arthritis, osteoarthritis. Well, I'm too young to get osteoarthritis though. But yeah, it was helpful, and along with some bone broth, and yeah. So moving on to our next question. Can you discuss the role of intention and energy transfer in the context of agricultural radionics, and how these factors influence plant growth and health?
So the intention can change. Your intention is what builds the world. That's how you're a creator. So humans' intention will change the environment. So when you're using radionics with agriculture, another thing actually with the radionics agriculture is with the intention of creating healthier soil, growing healthier plants, part of it is those animals that some people eat, are eating those plants. So when they're eating low vitality plants, that's harming that animal. Part of the intention that I like to apply is making clear to the plant that they're so important to nourish these animals that some people need for their nourishment. That's part of the cycle that you learn when you're working with radionics. That internal alchemy comes so pronounced you start to live your life in a different way. So there's, through intention, how you can change your world, build a different world. It's not exactly building skyscrapers,
Yeah.
but internally it's way more important.
This is so deep. Like if you just think about the farmers and their intentions, and we don't know when we go buy groceries in a supermarket with what intention they were grown. Primarily money, but I hope if we all start practicing these practices, it would be simpler for everyone.
Then with a deeper respect, you can go back from that cycle of minerals to plants to animals to back down to the living organisms in the soil
Mm-hmm.
and the humic of the degradation of hundreds of thousands of years of all sorts of plant life
Mm-hmm.
that are decomposing in order to bring through that death, bring life again, and the nutrition.
Yeah.
So now you can get into the soil and really
Yeah.
start affecting that, and then up again to another level with the plants, and then another level of understanding the animals and the gifts that they bring.
Yeah.
And then humans and
Yeah.
neighbors and everybody's, but the intention is so important. Where the intention goes, the chi flows, and where the chi flows, attention goes.
Absolutely. That's
It's
such a
not some new age BS if you get to a deeper level.
yeah.
When you have care for the earthworms and the microorganisms that are growing, helping to produce healthy, vibrant plants that
Mm-hmm.
nourish us, or our pets, or the animals we use
Mm-hmm.
for all sorts of reasons, clothing, food, um, sewing, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I know this topic in homeopathics gets a lot of controversy,
Yeah.
but
Still accepted in the mainstream. Homeopathy is still not taboo. I think, yeah.
well, and the funny thing is, like, we got these very old rulers of the planet, like the Queen of England.
Oh yeah.
Queen Elizabeth had a homeopathic doctor 24/7.
See, there you go.
A big promoter of that. Didn't even travel without a homeopathic doctor.
Yeah. And I think
Live a long time.
yes. Yeah. A lot of those hospitals were funded by Princess Diana, if I'm not wrong. Could be. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
the royal family of the Windsor family, they used homeopathics since it was introduced to human consciousness.
Samuel Hahnemann, what was around 200 years ago, or the German homeopath?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, these energies, they affect the subtle energetic field produces a blueprint for growth. So it communicates with your cells. That's the data. That's the projection field, right? So, and these fields are detected by the nervous system. So that's why it's very important to take care of your nervous system. That's the human nervous system, what separates us from any other life form.
so like you said, that you chose, or you choose to be a vegetarian. Remember, if we had that talk before, and one of the reasons were you said that because what you eat, your brain starts thinking like that, or you start
Well,
projecting.
your whole body, however, well, your nervous system there, yeah. So you're taking in, and you start to take in that vital energy.
Yeah.
So if you're taking in a healthy plant, you're getting vitality of that plant. You're communicating with it. If you're
Right.
taking in like chemotherapy, it's kind of like a homeopathic, but not really. There's still substance in there. But one thing that separates it from other remedies is it's only cultivated the buds and the roots in the springtime. So the idea of that spring energy of growth, and that's why it helps open up detox pathways and
Hmm. And so
open
you
up.
don't have to deal with an animal in the middle, which you don't know how he was raised or where was he raised, what kind of pasture was he feeding on, and you just directly go to the plant and then you nourish yourself with it. I think that's very wise to do in an agriculture which has become.
Well, I started with wild, like I went from animals to just eating wild animals.
Sorry, come again?
I went to years ago, I moved to eating just wild animals, wild game or wild caught fish. And then I graduated to vegetarian.
Okay. And did you see any changes?
You do change when you take in more of a plant diet. For me, I was a typical um, Westerner.
Mhm.
In high school, I played a lot of sports, was very competitive. Into my career, I was the same way. I learned to be very, aggressive or not very soft. And I seen everything around me. That's how people got ahead in life. Yeah, I think looking back, I was taking in, that's what kind of made me, dawned on me to change. So I was taking in certain more animalistic tendencies from other humans and from my diet. So when I took in more vegetables and fruits, got rid of um,
Aggression?
the other energies,
Okay.
you become way more soft, way less likely to be in like this warlike mentality of humanity.
Hmm.
Um, it's an exploration. I've told many people, especially in my culture, how I grew up. If you kill an elk, you use the whole animal. And it's a necessity,
Hmm.
especially when there was no transportation like in the modern day. To survive a winter, many cultures need that if you're in the northern latitudes.
Yeah.
So if I was back into that environment, which I might be someday, who knows?
Yeah.
But there was always a ceremony. There was a deep respect. It's totally different than going to a chain grocery store, getting in an animal from God knows where that's wrapped in plastic and
Plastic.
styrofoam.
Yeah.
There's no ritual to it.
Yeah.
And that's gone out of a lot of people's consciousness, but
Yes.
that does mean something because it's an energy exchange.
Yes. Emil, talking about your career, did you come into radionics since you were in that phase, or it was a slow journey? And did you switch your career to, or you were always in health and wellness? Talk a little bit about yourself so we know more.
My initial career was in hotel and restaurant. So I took that career because I wanted to travel. So I looked at it, if I was good at it, I can travel, explore these different cultures. I can work anywhere, uh, have an income to live, plus learn other things that interest me in mainly arts and culture.
Mhm.
And so had the ability to go to Europe and Asia for long periods of time and learn from these other elders outside of my career, kind of in the shamanistic or um, ancient medicines. And I used food as an art, but my main focus as a chef was the shopping aspect,
Mhm.
getting the best fruits or vegetables or animals
Mhm.
in the pristine environments. And in my late 20s, I opened a restaurant on Vancouver Island that was specifically sought out for the location because I
Mhm.
wanted to only cook with items that were produced within 100 kilometers.
Mhm.
So I
Right.
was on the ocean and had different
Fresh.
suppliers of produce and other animals or fish.
Mhm.
And near there was one of the major hospitals for Vancouver Island.
Mhm.
And one thing I started to see was a bunch of people were coming to get food for their parents.
Oh,
They didn't like the hospital food, but they would come back to me and say, that's the first time in years I've seen my mother eat a full meal. So
I'm getting goosebumps now.
yeah,
Wow.
like I knew right away it wasn't because of it was a popular restaurant and it was delicious, and I'm very
And
good
at
at
that time, you were into the conventional food type, like popular
that.
food
Nothing conventional. Yeah, made everything.
from
Main thing was sourcing and cooking it relatively simply. But I realized that that elderly person, the only reason they ate all my food was because their body was asking for that energy. So what they were eating, what deteriorated their vitality, was probably energy deficient food, low vibration food. It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't how much seasoning or the balance of salt and vinegar or whatever it was. It
sauces and all
was
that.
still living food. So that's how I got I took nutrition in school
Mm,
as a chef. There are programs for that, but I just went more and more into exploring the effects of what we put in our bodies. Then it led to other practices like qigong and tai chi and different philosophies, and reviewing my younger self. So these elderly people that were teaching me, their language back then, I understood. English is a funny language because it's very vague. It's not very
yeah,
detailed. That's why it's a worldwide business
yeah.
language, is because it's a tricky,
Oh,
more
yeah.
nefarious kind of language as far as I'm concerned. But then, you're 5, 10 years older. Those words replayed in the head mean something different with more experience. And then now 20 years later means something totally different.
Move on to the next question. I think this is the last one. I'm not sure yet. So, looking forward, do you foresee increased acceptance and integration of radionics in mainstream agriculture? And what steps can be taken to facilitate this integration?
I believe that we have a brighter future. So a lot of the radionics work came at the same time as um, Rudolf Steiner and other forward thinkers that were very concerned about the state of consciousness and the world. And these were the people that predicted the technologies making this world, this planet, very sick. So
5G.
through death or struggle, good things always come out of it with
Yeah.
the right intentions. So I believe there will be a higher consciousness. There's less and less choices out there
Mhm.
if we want to survive and
Mhm.
thrive. So that's the silver lining, is eventually that people will catch on.
Inshallah. So far, I think we are done here. And I would like to wrap up the session now. Any last words or anything, any other point you think that could help our audience in understanding alternate therapies with agriculture or radionics or medicine?
A few things that radionics can work with are the ideas of vortexing.
Mhm.
So there's vortex energy all over the world. That's how the planet is. So the positive vortexes that are clockwise, those are very healthy energies, and that's where people go to meditate or have their Merkl healings or better crop productions. But
That
that's where,
kind of water should be used to water the plants, the vortex water.
well, yeah, between vortex water and vortex energies that are surrounding us that we bathe in due to the ley lines,
Mhm.
of the planet. So when they're positive energies, also that's where the Great Pyramids are built, or other great energy monuments. Now the negative ones are where people get sick, they have struggles, and that's because it's in a counterclockwise vortex.
Wow.
So the positive vortex happens when two energy waves have an exactly 90-degree meeting point. And those are the powerful ley lines that many people know about great societies. And they build communities on these positive ley lines. Now, over time, those can change. So we have to change with it somewhat nomadically, or use what dowsing, radionics, different intention-based modalities to try to improve those vortex points.
And also if you want to talk about the lunar cycle, like
Well,
the energy
so
on the moon.
the moon controls our water systems, like the ocean tides.
Yeah.
So at certain stages of the moon, they're pulling a lot, and that they're pulling energies from plants and from your body. So especially if you're not well centered and grounded, that's why during full moons, many like nightclubs, they have more security, or it's more dangerous to drive. Sometimes people are more erratic because their chi is being moved, and they're more easily controlled because they haven't mastered what they call heaven on earth in some teachings. So these different planets in astrology that so-called rule us, that is true until you work on it internally, so that these issues don't rule you anymore. And some of it is dealing with the negative aspects of so-called negative aspects of who you are, like the devil inside. So as you're doing internal alchemy, you can accept that those so-called negatives, become friends with it, as a friend told me. That is part of you, nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And now you're no longer controlled.
Yeah.
One of the celestial bodies there's the moon.
Yeah. And most of well, I don't want to talk about politics though, but most of the bombings in Palestine took place on full moons. So most of the higher numbers in killings was on full moons, and that was quite interesting. So
Well, and then there's underground too, the geopathic stresses, which we could talk about more in the for homes or feng shui discussions. But
yes.
there's water movement, aquifers or underground lakes that increase the radiation coming vertically towards their surface. And this causes very many health problems. Some of the ancient talks of more magical talks of spirits and what have you, the negative spirits and nature. So there's places where you'll never build anything at that time because people can feel these energies.
Yeah.
They may be promoted as so-called demons or spirits, but it's actually radiation that these people can see. So if you build there, you will deplete your energy, have a whole bunch of mental illness or physical illness. Nothing will grow properly. There'll be drought.
Yeah.
That was one issue that was created with fracking. Also, another way of shaking up the Earth's crust and releasing radiation, causing earthquakes, or a lot of crazy behaviors could be attributed to what's underneath you.
So even natural disasters.
Yeah, there was a lot of natural disasters from fracking, believed to be different earthquakes,
tsunamis
in areas that never had earthquakes. Yeah, and then tsunamis could come if it was coastal.
What about wildfires? That is different.
Wildfires could be more of the chemical runoff. See, with soil too, soil actually, a lot of Earth's rain or water cycles come from perspiration of the soil. And then there's the electromagnetic connection between, that's how clouds are formed and how rain comes. They say too in the old days that hail won't hit healthy land.
Mm-hmm.
It usually only hails on sick soil.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a sign to look after that soil. And that's, I think, a blunt force example for the people living in that area to take care of that soil.
Mm-hmm.
There's in the Nordic culture with the runes, there's a hail rune stave, and it's generally regarded as one of the negatives because it's very destructive.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at that energy vibration and what hail is and what it does, it comes suddenly, causes a lot of damage. So I'm one of the people that I don't think it's a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
I
Why
think
would you think that?
well, there's lessons in life. So when that happens to me, that means stop what you're doing, take shelter, think about what's happening, understand that there is a lot of destruction of your property, but also that is water and it's melting and it's going to revitalize that soil.
Right. The
But
water.
anyways,
Yeah.
internally, something's telling you stop what you're doing and take account of the inventory of your life and make some changes. Because
Changes. Yeah.
everything you do is your decision. If
Absolutely.
you have a self-responsibility attitude, which is a healthy attitude, you know that everything that happens was your decision. You
Yes.
could have decided to do something else generally.
Yeah. So I think wrapping up with this, with the self-responsibility attitude, where you could also think about the little predators in your backyard. I would like, Emil, thank you so much for your time, for taking out time for us. And if anybody has questions later on, you can always text me on the number below or just call me, and we can get in touch with Emil. So far, I think we are good to go. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you so much for your time,
You're welcome.
and see you tomorrow for third interview, which is on, I'm not sure which is on pets or home, or is it home?
Oh yeah, tomorrow is home and water.
Home and water. Yes. So radionics on home and water. So
Yeah, and whether it's the environment or the house or the water, I know a lot of people just want their bodily health done with radionics or with any health practitioner, whether it's natural health or allopathic. But it's important to take care of your home and your environment because that's so intertwined with your body health. You can keep taking your supplements or your surgeries or your whatever it is you like to do. But if you don't clean up your house, you're going to keep having those issues.
So the bottom line is think on a micro scale and start working on a macro scale. So yeah. And
You're going to change the energies in your body, change your house energies too.
Yes.
You spent so much time there that now you're going to get more vitality and have a greater chance of expanding physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Because if your house is dirty or unhealthy or, who knows what's being projected out there these days, well, that's going to weigh you down too. And your body, your nervous system, your immune system will have to deal with that.
We'll be discussing this in the next videos coming up. So stay tuned and look out for Emil showing up in the third interview.